夢なんです。小さい時からの。
It's like you want me to hate you. Or it's like you hate me.
My friends could die. My friends!
I can't control my flames yet. I could hurt innocent people.
When I was their age, I thought being a ranger was gonna be rough, but tons of fun.
Can you imagine? It'll be such an adventure!
Hello, and welcome back to another indie interview. I am your host, Mike Grayworks. You may know me from several indie animation projects, such as The Howling Hoods and the upcoming Entangled, the Rapunzel adventure. But for now, I am joined with a very, very special guest, Mauricio from Brown Table and the creator of Interstellar Rangers. Want to introduce yourself? Say hi.
Hi, I am Mauricio from Brown Table. Yeah,
Yeah.
my indie show is Interstellar Ranger Commence. It is a bit of a mouthful,
Yeah.
but for some reason, I was like, I gotta make it like a big thing, like just a big title for some reason.
Yeah,
But yeah, that is what I do.
Yeah, kind of like those older '80s like sci-fi adventure kind of names.
Yeah, for me, like when coming up with the name, I could have done something very like a lot more concise, but I did really appreciate this like kind of wacky way that like some anime, like some manga is titled, where it just feels really long
Mhm.
for some reason, but it kind of gives you that like, oh, that's so like fun and like interesting, and I appreciated that, so I just made that the title, even though it kind of doesn't really make like a ton of sense, but I was like, I think it sounds nice, like
Yeah.
like it rolls out nice. It's just kind of long, but
You don't see that a ton, especially like more American cartoons lately. I think the maybe the most recent one that I can think off the top of my head would be like Venture Bros, because they would always have like big titles for their episodes because they're like
okay.
very pulp people. Like their movie was red is the color of the radiant baboon's heart, just like
Okay.
that kind of great stuff. Yeah, and let's start off with our starter question. What's the latest piece of media you've been watching lately? It can be a books, it could be art, it can be like a movie, a TV show, anime.
I have been watching a lot lately, and consuming a lot for some reason. Surprisingly, I feel like usually I'm very much someone that is like constantly working. I do think it'll ultimately be my downfall. I
Yeah.
think I'll probably likely die at like 60 because I'm so sedentary. But I have been like playing a lot of Deltarune again. Like I restarted Deltarune because the new chapter came out and it's so good, and so I had to replay it because I forgot it's been so long. Um, Stuff I've been watching though, I mean I recently watched Obsession, which is fantastic movie.
Great movie.
Really a real not a real thunker, but like a real thunker in the way of like you sit with it and you're like, damn, that's crazy. You know what I mean? And for anime, I've been watching a lot of. I was just trying to catch up with like season stuff, the seasonals. Like I've been watching Witch Hat, which is
I gotta watch that. Hear nothing
Witch
but
Hat
praise.
is so good. One of the just I've told pretty much everybody this. Like I watched the first episode, and for me, I was like, I was like so pressed. I was like, this is so frustratingly good. I'm like, wow, my stuff is ass. This is amazing. I was so like floored by how incredibly well done it was. And I like teared up like twice because of how like it like blew me away.
Damn.
There's this other one, Marriage Toxin. There's this one that not many people are watching. It's this Yuri anime called Botan Kamina Blossoms When Fully Drunk. I think it's what it's called. And that one is again long title, right? You see?
Oh, I've heard of that actually.
Okay, yeah, that one it's so good. It I think every single episode. I don't know if it has like a set art director, or if every episode is a different art director. All I know is that every single episode kind of has like a distinct look to it, and I really appreciate that as an artist, and just seeing like these people kind of like come up with like different ways to present a story is really enthralling. So yeah, that's some of the stuff I've been.
It's funny because usually I ask this question to a lot of indie interviewers, and a lot of them just kind of give like one or two answers. It's usually like a TV show or like something they put off in the background. You came out here with like like shooting off every single cylinder, and I love that.
Yeah, I think what it is also, I mean, I think what it is truly like I just love watching and consuming stuff. Sadly, and this is another flaw of mine. I don't read enough. I truly just don't read, which is really bad. But I've always been more of a visual person, so I try to just take in everything visually, and I try to consume like story in that lens. I think that's why a lot of like when I write my scripts, I put so little detail in them, like descriptive wise, because it's in my head. So I'm like, all right, this is in my head. I don't have to worry about that, and I just write like the dialogue. And I've tried to like go back and like try do it again and like better, because I'm like, I need these actors to also understand like what's happening in the scene. I can't leave them hanging like that. So when I was like smaller and I, had like I would just ask people to voice act for me, and they'd be like, "Oh, cool, I'm down." Then I would just really not really care too much. But as what I make like gets a little more just bigger in general. I have started to like have to really kind of put in the work and really type in like what characters are feeling, or like what the idea of the scene is. Especially when you start casting like bigger names, that is definitely important, because it's not just something that is important for them in the sense of like, oh, this is worth your time. I need to make sure you feel like it's worth the time, but it's also kind of like a I guess it's like a respect thing too. It's like you realize later on that it's like, oh man, this isn't just like me fucking around. Like these are like now professionals, and then you think back on it, and it's like, well, everyone I've been working with inherently is a professional. I need to also do right by them, and in making sure that everything I prepare for them is the best that it can be, and it's not just for me. And so when you kind of grow as a creator when creating, and you realize what your flaws are, and you work on them to make sure that the next thing you create is like the better than the last thing, I think that's also why for me, like the stuff I make, I try to make it the newest thing better than the last thing. So I think every episode of IRC is like consistently better than the last one. And that's why I'm remaking the first two episodes, mostly the first one, because I'm like, this can be done so much better.
I love that, because I think that's such a kind of like a true artist, like looking back at their stuff. It's just like, because I remember when George Miller, Mad Max fame, he made the first Mad Max, and he was a doctor at the time. He had no idea how to make a movie. And then when he had time to make Mad Max, not Fury Road, the second Mad Max movie, the one everyone knows, when he was reflecting on it, he was just like, I hate everything about the original movie. I just see the flaws. And one of his friends came up to him and said, yeah, it's directing, man. You learn from your mistakes and you improve in the future. And I love that so much. But speaking of different aspects of art and different forms of media, I want to talk to you because I have also been watching your channel for a long time. I was actually introduced to you through your media analysis, so like your discussions about like different superhero stuff and different comic books and anime, and finding out that you were also the creator of our IRC. Like that was such a cool thing to find out. Can I just ask you a bit about your history as an artist, as well as like your YouTube history?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you came out as a YouTuber and stuff like that, like, did you know, like, oh, I want to make video essays as a whole, or was that like something that like easily transitioned with your artistic skill?
Not at all. You know what's crazy? I think that's why I've like kind of like really started doing video essays less and less. I don't know if you heard like a yell, but
yeah, I did.
Okay, it's because like I think the World Cup is on, so like got people in the background. What's happening is that like for me, when I was younger, I would make fan-made trailers and fan-made edits and stuff like that. Not as cool as today's edits with like so much editing and like crazy text popping up, and I wish I could like do that. I mean, I can, but it would take me a long time to really sit down and figure that out and learn that as well. But at the time I was doing that, and my channel was growing to I think around maybe 2,000 subscribers, maybe 1,000, 2,000. And I remember I think my dad was like, "Why don't you like monetize this? Like, why don't you do something?" And I'm like, I would, but I can't because fan made trailers. It's all footage of the movie.
Mhm.
It's all audio that's copyrighted. So while at the time it was like you can display it, but you just can't make money off it. And
Mhm.
sometimes it would get blocked, which slowly started becoming a bigger thing as time went on. But at the time it wasn't as like prevalent. Still an issue though. But and so I realized maybe if I talk about the things that I'm into, I can maybe make some income. And so truly when I made the channel, it kind of was like an income thing at the beginning. Like other than the fan made trailers, I was like, why don't I talk about movies and start reviewing movies? And I think my first review was an Ant-Man review, which was so bad. It's like the worst thing I've ever made. I speak like, hello. Um welcome everyone to the channel. I had no like charisma like at all. And as time went on, I just kept like making stuff, and I realized that now that I can monetize stuff, like I can maybe start. No, I started like branching out in general, and I was able to monetize some of the things that I could do. But one of the huge benefits of it was also that now I had more eyes on my channel, like in
Mhm.
general, and people also knew me as an individual. And I realized that my channel isn't just like an outlet for me just doing whatever. I can also like create things that like maybe make no sense for the channel, but I don't care. I can make it. And so that's when I started making Return to Zootopia when I was like in high school,
Mm.
which is a fan film that took me like 2 to 3 years to make. And that was a whole beast to really figure out. It was really tricky, but I managed to figure it out. And but it was tough though. And I think from there, I truly realized that as I started evolving into like video essays, which I felt that was more my speed compared to movie reviews, like I felt like video essays were more interesting because I could really analyze a little more specifics rather than me just going broadly like this is the music, this is the director, was he good, here's a star review at the end. I didn't really want to do that, but I wanted to like kind of do something like more specific, and that's when I
Mhm.
started branching into that. But I do animation. Like I went to college for CG animation, and I self-taught myself 2D, and I think a lot of the process of that was doing Return to Zootopia. And I kind of that whole movie has like an animatic look to it up until like the final 20-30 minutes, where I just started randomly just dropping 2D animation in there as I was learning it. Um, and so from there, I was like, wow, 2D animation's cool. What if I just made a show that was 2D animated? And so that's kind of when I was like, all right, let me figure out how to just make a show. And that's later I made IRC. Um, the channel truly is kind of like a mashup of like the stuff I'm like into and interested
Mhm.
in making. That's why I feel like there's some things that like people subscribe for, which is usually like commentary videos where I'm like being silly or like serious analysis. And so those usually get like a lot more views, and then like some animation stuff either like bangs or it just gets like just nothing. But it for me it's like I kind of just want to make stuff, and
Mhm.
if people don't like watch it, it's like okay, cool, but I'm happy that I made it. I needed to get it out of my system. Would I like for people to watch every single thing I make? Yes, but it's not like a given that it's going to happen. But
Mhm.
I think that's also why indie animation is tricky because like uh, I want people to watch IRC. It already has 5 episodes out, and I think the distance between episodes, and in my opinion like the first episode is like solid, but it's nothing like I think for me groundbreaking after reviewing it,
Mhm.
that I want to remake it so that it feels more like engaging and it's a more streamlined just viewing for people to go, oh, and I got to watch the next one, and I got to watch the next one, and they have the whole season out, and then they like become more receptive to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really tough managing creation, because I'm more of like an artist head, and so I'm not like thinking business. I'm not thinking like I have to figure out marketing and statistics. Like I don't know
Yeah.
that. So
Unfortunately, that is the game of indie animation to a degree, which is sad.
I know, and it that is tricky. I truly wish I had someone to like manage that for me or like figure
Mhm.
stuff out like that. Like what would be most beneficial, but I don't. But I do what I can with the time I have, for sure.
Of course, yeah. And something about your YouTube channel that I really like, especially as an artist. Well, I'm a self-taught artist. You're a more official artist and all that stuff. But I really love your videos talking about VFX as well as animation, your reanimation scene, mainly for the My Hero Academia, but also the Mappa situation. I think there's a instinct a lot of young people have online when talking about animation, when they kind of see like some flaws to a degree of kind of being a bit more personal with their critiques of it, of saying like, oh, the artist didn't care, the animation people are just untalented. And it's like a lot of it has to deal with the politics of animation. And that's what really kind of drew me to your videos as well. And I love that aspect. Is it because of your history with 3D animation and like just as an artist yourself, you kind of have that approach in comparison to like some other more like fandom groups online to a degree when it comes to like, talk about like maybe choppy CGI or like some animation cuts?
Yeah, I think for me, and that isn't to say that I'm not guilty of also kind of propagating that mentality,
Of
especially
course.
when I was a lot more uneducated before. Because you see something bad and you're like, bro, this is dog water. Like, what's happening? Like you would watch Spider-Man: Homecoming, and it's like that is atrocious CG. Like I don't know what happened in that shot, but that shot looks very bad.
That
Objectively.
was that the Vulture one?
Yeah, that's the one with the vulture.
Okay, all the names for the Tom Holland
Yeah.
Spider-Mans are confusing to me. It's
Okay,
just
so the Homecoming is the first one, right? And
Mhm.
so in that one, there's a specific sequence when Spider-Man's like on a ferry, and like Spider-Man looks so fake in this entire sequence, and it's not about like the year this was released, it truly is like what happened. And I think at the time I was like, Marvel, get a grip. Just like I was speaking very broadly, and I don't like really regret like certain things I said, because I was like truly analyzing like certain visuals and how they could be improved, but I wish I spoke more on the fact that like Marvel truly does, like, in Disney in general, kind of like really kind of abuses like the VFX industry in
Yeah.
general a little bit. And that isn't to say that like the VFX studios themselves aren't like super complicit in it, but they also kind of like don't have a choice in the matter, because inherently, it's, say Marvel is like, I want this movie done in like this is like not true, but like hypothetically, it's like I need all the CG done in like a month, and it goes to a studio, and the studio's like, I'll do it. And then another studio's like, I'll do it. And then another studio's like, I'll do it. It's like, well, who do you go for? Well, you go for the studio that's going to ask for the least amount of money. But to do so, that means that you're probably not going to be paying the most amount of people. And if you're not paying the most amount of people, like, you can't get like a bigger team. You have to get a small team, and you have to crunch all these people to get that done in a limited amount of time. And so that like happens like all across. Not Marvel isn't like Disney isn't the only one that does that. Like a bunch of studios do that, and it's just very tricky. It's just like it's tough, and we see this in anime too. And you mentioned the anime video I did, but yeah, like also the anime industry is also similar thing. You have very limited time and small teams, and they're just like crunched into oblivion, and they're not paid like at all.
No.
I know like someone from my team has worked in like for like official anime projects before, and if I feel like I can't pay them enough, I do it. Like the majority of IRC is truly is done by me.
Wow.
But when I'm like, okay, I need some help with a shot, I have spare money, like I shoot out like, can you do these in betweens? It's usually in betweens or like in betweens and coloring for like a shot. And so I go to this animator and I'm like, is this like enough? Like, is this okay? What are you getting paid like in like the anime industry? Because I want to at least match that or like give you more than that. And she's like, dude, you're doing so much better than like what like you're doing fine, because like they're not paying me like anything, and I'm like, oh god, like, that's so tough, man. And it's like that truly freaked me out. But yeah, I ultimately at the end of the day, like I try to present you know, my show specifically IRC definitely is like this huge thing with like so many people involved, and like there are a lot of people involved, like objectively there are, but I do kind of like stress like, oh, and so many people worked on this and it's like a team effort, and it is, but like the majority of it does fall on me, and that is extremely stressful, and it is extremely exhausting. That's why I'm like always working. Um, and when I can and when I'm able to, I ask people to help and like work on a shot, and I give them all the resources that they need to be able to do that. And you know, hopefully it comes out good. And if it doesn't, I'll just do some corrections, and it, you know, it's chill. Um, but it's tough, especially because it makes no money. Like IRC has made me no money, like at all. And so that is another thing that's really tricky. And you know, I eventually plan to do a Kickstarter for season 2. I want it to be like either like late fall. I want it. I'm planning on it to be released late fall, but I can't like assure that because it depends on like my income. It depends on how much time I have. It depends on my speed because I'm working on the first episode, the redux of the first episode. That's taking a long time. And I know I'm very fast. Like I'm thankfully, and this is known, I'm a very fast artist. Like somehow I can manage to do things really quickly. But even with my speed, I'm not sure if that's enough. So I don't know when things are going to be released. But I am planning on season 2 Kickstarter. I've like started a casting call for one of the main characters of that season. But it is a lot of work, and you know, hopefully it figures itself out because it is tricky.
Yeah, I love that, but also like the humility on display here. I don't think like if some of the audience members are new to that, IRC has like 5 episodes out at this point. It's like incredibly well animated. It's just like the fact that you animated so much of that is also so impressive. I have worked on like a few cartoons of my own, which was a massive humbling experience in my opinion. Because I'm like I have animated in the past. I've mostly just drawn. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll start this whole animation project, and then it's just like immediately just got hit a massive wall, which is I think is a good way to anyone who wants to get into the arts of like before you judge another show or cartoon or anything like that. It's a good like humble aspect of it, and just finding out that you were the animator behind so much is so impressive, especially with like how how well detailed this is for the most part, especially with how like iconic some of the characters like looks are. But I also want to talk about a bit more before we get into that of your channel, and as well as RSC to a degree. There's a very big like theme around superheroes and like anime to a degree. Is there like a history that has drawn you into that superhero or like just anime in general, like any like era or just like director or just like comic?
Yeah. So you're saying like what inspired IRC? Like if
yeah. What were some of the big superhero draws for you?
Well, I've always been like a big like I grew up with Spider-Man. I grew up with Batman, the Justice League show. Surprisingly, I grew up as like a DC kid and ended up a Marvel kid, which is very funny. But for me, that was one of the main draws. Hilariously, I got into anime extremely late. My Hero Academia was like my gateway. Well, that
really,
and Your Name, and okay, if we're truly talking like my history here, what happened was this is so problematic of me. I thought anime was extremely lame. I did. I was like, this is so cringe. I remember a friend, like not a friend. I had someone who was like my rival in high school, like my art rival, which is so funny to consider. Oh yeah, I had a rival in high school. His name was Deku. So she was really into Attack on Titan, and I remember her boyfriend got her like a Levi figure. It was a Levi figure, and I was like, couldn't be me. And to be honest, to be fair, every teacher was like, anime sucks. You don't learn from it. You shouldn't learn from it, which is an insane take. Like, for me, if I was an art teacher, if a student was like, I want to do anime, I want to like draw anime and stuff like that, and if they're presenting projects like with anime style and they're very clearly like not very well done, I'd be like, well, okay, listen, don't draw anime because you need to learn the fundamentals first, and that's what I'm going to teach you so that then you can draw anime and draw this better. But you can't do it right now. But teachers come in, like some teachers come in with like, wow, that is awful. Never draw that again. And I think that's really bad.
Yeah.
But I was kind of indoctrinated into that line of thinking. You know, also at like the time, you know, I think it truly was like a different time. Not to sound like a boomer, but it truly was. And
yeah, back then the anime stuff, like the way you learned how to draw was like those weird books you would get from like the dollar store of like learn how to draw anime or stuff you would see in the library.
It would look really weird too. Yeah, and so I wasn't really into that, even though I watched, you know, Mega Man, NT Warrior when I was little, and Knights of the Zodiac. I'm like, but no, those don't count. And I wanted to get into Death Note, and I remember I watched like a bit of it, and I got to the opening, and the opening of Death Note is so crazy and loud, and I was like, this is cringe, and I turned it off. And then I had an animation class in high school. This was like a design high school, and so I had an animation class, and this was my last year, so I was a senior, and the teacher, she was so sweet. I think her name was Miss Cooling. If that's wrong, that's so tough because that could be a completely different teacher. I think that's what her name was. I could be wrong, but she taught animation. She was really sweet, and students like kind of like you know, dogged on her for no reason because high school is awful.
High school, yeah,
high school's tough. And she showed the movie, the Studio Ghibli movie from Up on Poppy Hill, and truly not the best Studio Ghibli movie. But it is one of my personal favorites because that one was like my intro, you know, to it. And I watched that movie. It's such a funny movie to say this is my gateway, one of my gateway anime movies, because there has an incest subplot, which is crazy. But I watched it and I was taking it in like so seriously. I was like, oh my god, this is like so intense and like well like executed. And there's a scene, spoilers from Up on Poppy Hill. They're not related, but there is a moment in the movie where they think they are the main two, and I think one of them says to the other like, I don't care, like I want to be with you, you know, which is, you know, crazy, but like they didn't know that they were related, like they had no idea. These are like two strangers basically. And I was like, damn, that's tough, man. Oh, that's so rough, but like what an interesting way to like execute this scene in this movie. And everyone around me was like icked out, which fair, okay? But like I was like, can we like take this in as like a movie, like for a quick second? Like this is people take, you know what I mean? It was like kind of like the dawn of like this new era where everyone takes everything literally and can't like just understand that like a film is trying to present like something.
Yeah.
And so I was like kind of pissed because I was like, can y'all like fucking lock in for a second and watch this movie? And I think in spite, kind of like spitefully, I was like, I went to my teacher and I was like, thank you for showing me that movie. That was really good.
Yeah.
And like later I was like, fuck it. Sorry for cursing twice in a row.
You're good.
I went to the basement, which I lived in. I was basically like homeless at the time. This was a while later when I was in college, and I kind of took in that energy that Miss Cooling had like brought upon to me. And I finally watched Death Note, you know, and like I stuck with it. So I finished it and I was like, whoa, this is a banger, you know? And after that, you know, I finally was like, okay, maybe anime is cool. But I had no like desire to like pursue any more like anime media. I was just like, okay, like I finished this chapter of my life, I feel, and if I ever encounter anime again, I'll watch it. I don't have any ill will towards it in any way anymore. But then I was now later on. I was like now and finally in an apartment, and I was scrolling through Instagram, and there was this like I think mildly problematic Instagram account that I followed. Not like really bad, but it was just like I think they were just kind of weirdly mean and toxic for no reason, which is like Instagram is Instagram, but this one account like posted like a clip of My Hero, and it was like this My Hero Academia clip, and it was from season 3, and I was like, well, you know what, this looks really interesting, and then I looked more into it, and I saw this clip of I think Mina Ashido, this character Mina Ashido from My Hero, in like the UA tournament arc when they have in the story, and I was like, this character looks so fun. What? She's like sliding around the floor. How is she doing this? And so based off that, I decided I'm gonna watch this, and that I like kind of like braced myself. I watched it dubbed, and I remember at the time. This is so funny. I'm like describing my history here. Sorry, it's so long, but
No, you're good.
I skip the OP for all the seasons
Mhm.
because I think this is kind of cringe and loud and like weird, and I didn't like it. And then I reached season 3, and I decided to finally go like I'm gonna watch the OP this time, like the opening, and I watch it the whole way, and I'm kind of like. You know what it is? This is such a weird way to describe it. Understand that at the time I'm still kind of like maybe I have my own my own biases against anime at the time, and so I'm like, oh man, what is this? It's so in your face. So it felt like when you see a car crash and you can't look away from it because you're like morbidly curious, and so that's how it felt.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't like negative like a car crash, so I kind of like kept doing it, and I was like, this is kind of heat though,
Yeah.
So at a certain point, I cannot stop watching the opening every time a new episode comes out, and I wanted to get more, and the dub hadn't caught up, so I started watching the sub, and then from there I went back to the first season. I watched all the openings from those seasons, and I'm like, this is what I was missing out on, and so from there, then I watched Your Name. And I watched it wrong, and I didn't realize something at the beginning. Something at the end was already spoiled, like at the very beginning. So I straight up was like unironically holding my breath the entire third act, and I was like, "This is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my entire life." And then from there, I have been watching anime ever since. It is like probably the main thing I consume, other than like regular other stuff. I watch The Pit. I watch Obsession. Like I watch regular stuff, but I do watch anime. Like it's one of my main things, and I got my mom into it, like begrudgingly.
Really?
Yeah, begrudgingly at first, and she's told me. My dad told me that my mom told him that she was like, oh my god, bro, this kid makes me want to watch these cartoons. I'm tired. And then but now she's like, so when are we watching anime, son? And I'm like, but yeah,
I love that.
That's the vibe.
Getting a parent into anime is like the final step of like becoming a big anime person.
I think that is the vibe.
Yeah. Though we've talked about it a few times, we mentioned it in passing. I just want to ask you, can you give us your elevator pitch of Interstellar Ranger Commence?
Interstellar Ranger Commence's first and second season. I can give you the first and second season.
Yeah, totally.
Pitches, because, okay, to be fair, the second season was supposed to be part of the first season, but I think for better like Kickstarter branding, it's I think better to just announce it as like the second season rather than be like, and here's the second half of the first season. Can you please help me fund? It just
But
I think it feels it like rolls off better. So the first season, second season is essentially like the first season we have it's a little more like kind of like the build up towards everything. So it's Hope Griffin is like a girl who comes from Yokohama in Japan, just like everybody, and not everybody comes from Yokohama, Japan. Everybody comes from Japan in this story. The reason why is because the Interstellar Force is centered there. Basically, this girl wants to become an Interstellar Ranger, and she goes to Cosmos Academy to become one, But the problem is that she's faced with all these doubts from her peers because she isn't necessarily meant to belong there. And so, how is she going to deal with all this drama and maliciousness coming from her peers? Can she prove herself to be like someone that is worth that like belongs there? Does she have a place there or does she not? And this also goes into her, you know, kind of evolving and growing as a person alongside the person that is essentially being the one that is like bullying her. And so how can they kind of come to terms and how will they evolve through the course of the story? Can she ever become a ranger or is she cooked? Are her dreams enough? Are her dreams her own? We don't know. You'll have to see. But the second season, like the story of the second season kind of immediately like ramps it up to an insane degree. I actually have it written down. Let me see if I can get it, because I really like how it came out written. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, this is the second season one. So it's a sci-fi drama set in the year 2150. Now you rejoin Hope, Maria, Itsuki, and the rest of the cast, including newcomer Alicia, as they launch a high-stakes galactic rescue mission to save their captured friends. The heroes must track down the Nomads, which is a ruthless gang of space pirates terrorizing the stars. However, their deep pursuit forces them into a collision course with the past, threatening to uncover deep, long-buried secrets tied directly to the Interstellar Force and the people they care about. That's the premise of the second season, which is completely like just like such a jump from the first one, but that's how it be. We got to keep escalating.
Yeah, no, it's funny, like, because when I first came across this, I was at the gym, just on the treadmill. I was just scrolling.
Okay, getting swole, getting big.
Just on the treadmill for like an hour, and then like I hit that, and it's just like, oh, there's another episode. There's another. So I watched like 3 in a row. And I was shocked of it, but just like not only how kind of expansive this world feels, but like how like large the cast is, especially for an indie animation show. And while Hope Griffin is still able to stick out so well, all her other like classmates have such a strong design. And I've seen them also being getting quite popular online right now. I just gotta ask, like the creation of Hope Griffin and her classmates, what's like caused that? Did you just want to make like an anime class? Were they always intended to be this large?
So a lot of my like idea for it was like I wanted to create like a space odyssey kind of story, but my kind of thinking is always I like personal like drama, like small stakes. So it's funny to go from I want to make an expansive journey to I want to make a character driven show. And it's kind of like a weird clash of that. And I was at the time very inspired by anime. And at the time, what do you always see in anime? It's always like a guy either
boys.
It's like usually a guy in high school and they got like crazy stuff going on, And we see this like all the time. And so for me, I was like, well, I guess I got to set it in high school and this is an expansive cast. And then as I started developing the story, I was like, I want these characters to have more like mature like plot lines. And so I set it in college. And then I think the biggest takeaway at the time for me was I was watching like shows and I recognized that like I loved the female characters in like anime. But like they were like never given like spotlight enough compared to like the guys. Like you take like My Hero Academia.
Ochako.
Love that show. And Ochako was like a character that I just adored, and she kind of like takes a step back like throughout like the entire like middle act of like this show, and then like kind of comes back into fruition in like when she has to really tackle Toga as like a character. But like for a lot of it, she is kind of like the one that is like always supporting Deku, and she's there for Deku, and she's kind of like there to uplift Deku, and Deku can uplift her as well. But I wish she had like more like plot relevance, like overall, like what if she was like Bakugo? Like what if she was a Todoroki? And so for me, I wanted to see more like female I wanted to make like a fully female like cast, you know, and have like the guys take a bit of a back seat because I was like, what would that look like? You know, I want to see what that looks like, you know. And so there's still like the second main character of the show is still a guy, but like the rest is just like all girl. And I was what was so funny actually is that I didn't clock it like at a certain point when writing it. And so I when I put out episode 5, for example, of IRC, and I was like watching it over, and I'm like, this is dope. And I showed it to my friend later. And my friend, she was like, I love how you gave like all the girls like something to do. Like it felt like I feel like I don't really like, and the guys did a lot too. They did, but like it was so cool to see like all these girls do stuff. And I was like, what are you really? And I was like thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, because like she did that and she did this, and like the protagonist is a girl too. And it's like, oh yeah. And I guess it just kind of like became like second nature. I guess it's kind of like the thought process of it was just like, let's just make the main character a woman and like just like switch that up a little bit because it's fun and women are cool. So let's have more women on screen. And I am so humbled and like honored to have such an incredible cast of I'm trying to see if like any of them go by anything else. I don't think so. Yeah, a wonderful cast of women that voice these wonderful characters, you know, and they bring them to life. And so I am so honored that they can have life through their voices. It's just it's really dope to see. Everybody in the cast is fantastic, but I'm always like constantly like so grateful that they like take time out of their day, out of their lives to like come and voice this character for me, and I'm just like, yay, thank you, you know. So I really do appreciate that. But the question was like, what takes influence of like this show, like
yeah, that and just like other aspects of like the creation of the characters and how you're just able to keep track of them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very tricky. It's hard. Like I truly, for me, the main cast is like it is small, but it's like there's still a bunch of characters at play, and it's hard to juggle that. It is. And if like a character doesn't really have like a ton of plot relevance, I know that it's because I'm saving that for like later in the story, and then stories that may have plot relevance now might not have as much relevance later, or it's just like, you know, dulled down a little bit, and then they come back later on because you can only juggle so many characters in so many ways, you know. But as for like the expansive idea of like what I want the story to be, I really took inspo from Mass Effect. I truly think Mass Effect is like truly like I that was one of my childhood games. And I think as the story goes on, if I am able to even keep it going, you will see like the Mass Effect influence through the game like really kind of seep through, because I like the odyssey, like the adventure of like going to different places that like Mass Effect has. And yeah, it does have like that vibe at a certain point, I feel, but I still want to like make it its own thing, you know. Like you have like so many shows, like Star Trek does that, like Star Wars, like stuff, like just everything that I've taken in, like I just kind of like put it in there. And of course they have superpowers eventually because superheroes are cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, though speaking of, you mentioned that you had a lot of female characters and just like women who have like a lot of stuff to do, which was, you know, like your friend brought up of like how they all have stuff to do, which is like when you compare that to other shows, kind of like My Hero Academia, the Bill, like they kind of take more of a backseat. Something also that I wanted to bring up is design wise, you made all the ladies pretty damn jacked. Just like, and like you gave a lot of like personality to all the designs as well, and like there was like anime hair. When it came to like the designs of the characters, did you work on all these yourselves, or did you have like any help whatsoever?
No, I designed all of them myself. I know that at the beginning, I was gonna make like I was gonna make Hope. It was very sci-fi. I hadn't like thought of like powers yet, So I was like, I'm gonna make her like a techie character, and she has like all these weapons and like armaments and stuff like that. Which then I took in and was like, okay, that's gonna be for Jazz, which is another character. What I think the biggest one was for why all the characters are like built. Well, for starters, I've like noticed that like a lot of like superhero media has like these characters always be like jacked, and I'm like, yeah, superhero characters are buff, right?
Hell yeah.
And that's also why, you know, when I was younger, that's like all I consumed. And when I learned to draw, I would draw superheroes, and I would always give them like muscles, because like muscles and power and strong, you know. And I think that kind of just naturally became part of the like IRC look, you know. And I also think it makes sense because the characters have to be fit, like they like actively have to be, because even when they get powers, spoilers, even when they get powers, like it is like basically like a muscle, so like you can wear it out. And when you're not super powered anymore, well, you're just a guy, so you still gotta be able to like do stuff, you know. And I think based on like all the conditions that they have to go through, they have to go to space, they have to be able to like, they just always have to be like healthy and like fit. And I imagine that this world, at least in the world of IRC, like stuff is kind of like better, like the world, because of like how things have evolved. And I go into that in season 2. Stuff on Earth is better, like it's just like naturally more like healthy and like less like, you know, shit is like not as bad as like how it would be now, because so much is going on in space, right? And so everyone's like, oh no, space, we got to figure that out. And so Earth kind of becomes a little more unified, and everything is a little more healthy, everything's a little more green in that kind of sense, like, you know. And so in those regards, like it just kind of becomes like a little more like, well, all these characters have to be like set and good. Like I'm like, in my head, I haven't like really figured it out yet, so I guess it's still a headcanon. But I feel like all these characters would probably like not be eating like even like a lot. This is like something else now. I'm going into a tangent.
You're good.
Like, I don't think these characters would really be eating like a ton of meat as much. I feel like probably in the future, I think companies would have figured out how to like not have to keep like slaughtering as many animals to like kind of, you know, create food. I feel like at a certain point, like steak can be created and it tastes the exact same without actually having to like get a cow out there and like banging it up.
Kind of like the holodeck from Star Trek. Just
yeah, exactly. Like, and I took a lot of like the Star Trek thought of like, it feels like a very humanitarian show, right? It's very much like we have to better like society and stuff like that. And I feel like that's kind of where Earth is kind of coming from in IRC as well. The Interstellar Rangers aren't like an army. It's like a peacekeeping force that like analyzes and like checks out stuff in like, you know, the galaxy. But that's what they say they are, right? But like, could something else be going on? Like, has stuff been like hidden away? Like, what is do they have an agenda? Does someone else have an agenda that's like has more authority over the interstellar force in space? And so like we don't know. There's things that we don't know, and that comes into play in the second season a lot more. But in general, it's like they're pretty chill.
There are Star Trek episodes that do get into that, but honestly, that kind of reminds me a bit more of The Orville by Seth MacFarlane, his parody of Star Trek. Of just like, it's not a deconstruction of Star Trek, but it's just more of like a critical lens of the Federation, in that while still like keeping a lot of Star Trek lore for the most part, just and how they're able to have more fun with it.
I need to watch that show. I've heard it's really good.
It's really good. I really like it, and it's Seth MacFarlane wanted to make his own Star Trek, and he did something that I love, is that he just like, I'm just going to make my own show with my own rules, essentially. And I feel like that's like, he has the money to do it now, which is like very impressive. I feel like that's something that attracts me to a lot of indie animation and a lot of like indie animators, of just like their frustrations with not being able to get certain things seen, and so they make their own stuff. Not to divulge too much, but this happened with the 3 tomes. Brina Viscus, who was on here before, and now she's kickstarting her second episode. She wanted to see more like black magical girls who weren't like a disposable black love interest. I wanted to share my weird obsession with mythology and folklore, but just though Yeah, we've talked about them a few times, and you've rightfully praised them. But not only do you have a very incredible voice cast, you also have a history of voice acting, both occasionally in your show, but also for dubs as well. I know Spider-Man a lot. Just can you go into both like your history of voice acting and also like how you chose a lot of voice actors for Interstellar?
So for me, first, I never thought I would be like a voice actor. I guess I can qualify myself as one, given I've voiced 5 episodes.
Mhm.
But I mean, at the start, I was I started doing like a Nick Wilde's voice for Return to Zootopia, my fan film. And so truly what it was ultimately was just, I have nobody to help me do this. I've somehow lucked out and was able to get 2 other actors, but the easiest way to truly, as we know, sometimes the easiest way to handle something is doing it yourself. And I was like, I can't just bother some guy over and over to voice this guy. I'll just voice Nick Wilde. I think I can manage it. My 16-year-old voice can manage this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I just kind of like did like this faux Jason Bateman impression. I was like, hey, what's going on? It's so bad now. I haven't heard his voice in a
Were you
long
a
time.
Arrested Development kid? Were you a Arrested Development fan or other stuff?
I have seen Arrested Development. Yeah, it's so good. Well, the first 3 seasons, I think, and then it starts.
Yeah.
But and I threw in a dead dove do not eat joke in the movie. But from there, when I was trying to develop IRC, I once again, at the time I wasn't like huge, so I truly was just like, hey, does anyone want to be in the show? Just email me. And I got like a bunch of people, and I would just be like, this guy sounds good, this girl sounds good, I'll just cast them. I would just get anybody, because I didn't like have the resources at the time to really like specifically get people like that are 100% like in it. I didn't really, this isn't something I was really privy to. I was so busy with college, I think, at the time. It was college. And so I was just getting anybody. Casting Call Club, I didn't know that website. So I was just I just used my channel, and I was like, hey, does anyone want to help voice? And then they would just shoot their emails in. And once again, I was like, I can save myself time and effort by just casting myself. And what the benefit of myself is that like I know exactly how I want a line to sound, so I don't even have to worry about that, And so of course I'm like, all right, so the guy who speaks the most, I'm just gonna voice him because it's easier. But at the same time, the cops are coming for me. No, I put a lot of effort into, what am I saying? I put a lot of myself into these characters as well. I'm not saying I'm any of the characters. I'm saying that all the characters are kind of like a part of me, which is very weird. I think if like someone would say like you're Itsuki from the show, I'm like, I'm not. Like I think I would probably identify myself most with Hope. And I put a lot of like myself into that character, and like insecurity and doubt over like my place and like what and stuff like that. But I've also put a lot of myself in Itsuki and like his own like issues with like his dad, and like his own issues with like certain things, and his every character has like some sort of baggage, and I've tried to explore my own life and stuff that I've seen, and like put that into every single character to make me better understand who these characters are, so I can like kind of write them better. And from there I just voice him, and I know exactly like how he's supposed to be voiced. And then I got such a fantastic cast like right off the bat for all these characters. And then from there I just started like, as I kept developing the show, because crazily enough, how did I do this actually? How insane was I? I think what I started doing, maybe I'm crazy, I think I was doing every single episode. I think I just started going on the season. I just working on the entire season.
Wow.
And then I was like, I need to actually drop an episode. So I dropped the first episode. And then I was like, oh no, but stuff from like the 5th episode looks better than like the first one, so I need to rework the second episode. And so I rewrote and reworked the second episode, and then I'm like, oh, but now it looks better than the third episode, so I redid the third. It's the entire thing has been remaking it. But and as I was figuring out like releasing the first episode, at that time, since I was already like so deep in production, I was able to further like better cast characters. Because at a time, I think I remember I like cast people, and then I was like, I just basically ghosted them. Like I was like, all right, and now you're cast, so and I'll contact you whenever. And from there I'm like, oh, I think I can get like a better actor for this or a better actress for that. So I was like, hey, can I like switch you out, which is awkward, but I've had to do stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I'm just super grateful with the cast that I've landed on. There have been moments where I've had to I had to recast one of the characters because I felt like the actor wasn't like 100% hitting exactly like how I wanted to, or like maybe like just the tone wasn't like 100% right. And I was able to cast, another person. The main voice for Hope Griffin, she had to go because she just got like too busy, and I was like, damn. But at the same time, like I'm so grateful that I was able to contact Abigail Blythe, and they were down. I was like, what? That's crazy. And I remember I was showing the original voice actress Abigail's delivery in Kaiju number 8, because the original actress was not professionally trained or anything like that. She was just doing this for fun. And so I was telling her, okay, so like when you yell, you want to like sound more guttural, you want to come in from here, and you want to launch your voiceover like outward across the room basically. And so I would give her like footage from this to like maybe like have her better understand, because Abigail's voice is extremely similar to the original Hope's voice. And then when the original actress left, I was like, well, maybe I can just contact this person that kind of sounds fairly similar. And I lucked out, man. I am so lucky because she does sound similar. It is not like super apparent that there's like a jump, and they were just so like kind and like super willing to just voice. And I'm like, oh my god, thank you so much. I just really, really, really nice person. So, and the entire cast is lovely, and some of them are more talkative than others, and I've been I'm grateful to have actually met some of them. Like there's some that like, because you can't befriend like every single person. Like that's just not how it works sometimes. Because some people see it like more as like a gig, which is totally fine. I have no problem.
Yeah.
But some people are like, dude, I'm so down. Like, what's up with you? And I'm just grateful to like have been able to like foster like such a nice community. Like some of these people have been more like talkative, and we become friends, and like we've hung out like in real life. Just really, really cool stuff. And yeah, I'm just really, really grateful for the cast and crew. I'm just so lucky, man. I truly am extremely lucky, and I really appreciate them a lot.
Yeah, that's a crazy fight, Abigail. That must have been so cool, because also like hearing her voice, she's able to make like very sweet and also very insecure emotions sound so sincere. And I feel like that's kind of a difficulty when it comes to voice acting with like some younger people and stuff like that, where it's just like overly authentic, where it's just like, because we've all heard like the parody anime voice of like someone who tries to imitate Deku or something like that. It's just like it doesn't quite work. But it's like here, it's just like everything was just like firing off on the right cylinders. Just
no, absolutely. You know what it was also? I felt like it was like fate, because and this was before the original actress had like left. I was gonna have Abigail voice like some other character. I didn't know who. The reason why was because they followed me on Twitter, and I was like, they followed me on Twitter? I do not know why they did that, but because of that, I was like, wait, so they know who I am, and I think that means I can message them, right? And it wouldn't like show up as like spam, so I can actually like email this person. And it must have been either Josh Keaton interacting with me publicly or something. Maybe I posted an animation or something, but I I really did luck out. I really did.
Yeah.
But in general, I lucked out with the entire cast because
Yeah.
that cast is so fantastic and so willing to help me. It's like ridiculous. Like yeah. I could talk about him for a long time.
Of course. No, yeah, I was going to mention you've got to work with some very cool people, including Josh Keaton on like multiple like not even just like Interstellar, but like other personal projects like your reanimation stuff like for Invincible, like as well as like some 3D stuff you've got to do. That must have been so cool. How did that go down? Was it just like did they notice you initially, or were you someone who reached out to them?
I am gonna be so for real. I cannot remember how I got in contact with Josh Keaton. I don't know. What I do know, no, I do know. I do know what happened. I do know what happened. I I think I was gonna remake the Spectacular Spider-Man Blue animation.
Mm.
No, I was gonna make a Spectacular Spider-Man Blue animation. That's what I meant to say, because it's like a comic, and I wanted to make it like in spectacular style. And I saw that Josh Keaton had voiced this for his YouTube channel,
Mm.
and so I think I either must have like cold DM'd him, or I just straight up asked him like in a tweet. I was like, "Can I use your voice for this that you used, that you already recorded?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so because of that, I'm like, "Okay, bet." And I just used the audio that he had already done, and I used
Wow.
another one for good measure, so I could expand the video, and it did super well. One of my best videos like on the channel, and from there, Josh, I guess like recognized like my like ability as like an artist, and so he followed me back, and then from there, now I can like go and be like, hey, so can I dub this that you can you dub this for me and I'll animate it? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then that's like I think one of the latest Spider-Man videos, like he's just voices in it. Because I simply asked if he would be down to, and he said yes, which I'm once again so grateful for. Like I don't, so very, very cool stuff that I'm very happy is, able to happen. And I think if anyone is watching that like has like a takeaway, it's probably just always, dude, what am I even saying? Anybody that's watching that has a takeaway. If anybody watching, if they can like take away something from what I'm saying, it's that like always like just do it regardless. Like shoot
Wow.
your shot. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But hey man, you don't. What is that line? What is that line? You miss all the shots you don't take. I think
Michael
that's what it is.
Scott. Yeah, just
Is
yeah,
that-
LeBron. It's
So,
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's just-
Exactly. So you gotta take those shots regardless. And maybe they'll hit, maybe they won't. But for me, thankfully, like I have been blessed with the ability to just what am I saying again? The ability. I've been blessed and fortunate enough to have had, a reciprocation towards my asks.
Mhm.
And once again, I'm so happy that that has, occurred, and hopefully it keeps happening, because I have ideas that aren't just like IRC in mind. The only problem is that IRC takes up so much of my time that
Yeah.
there's only so much I can do, but I do have things that I want to do. I have an idea for another show in my head, but again, I don't have
Ooh.
time. But yeah,
Would it be sci-fi or would it be something a bit different?
it would be, I think, tonally. I mean, it would be. I know that I have it as a comedy. It's very slice of life,
Okay.
and it is very much episodic compared to IRC, which is like full on like a narrative. But there is still what my favorite thing is, character drama, and it's very like character based, which is what I like to write. So yeah, and I do think that the first episode of IRC, I was watching so much anime, subbed anime, that I kind of like try to present the story in like that format that I'd like been watching,
Mhm.
instead of just writing like how I would normally write. And I think that is why I feel the first episode feels a little stilted, at least to me looking back on it, which is why I wanted to remake it and the dialogue is almost completely different because I the story is like what I want it to be, but like how it's presented is not like how I really would want it to be anymore. And so,
Mhm.
you know, it's again better to do better to be who you are and present the story how you want it to be told than to copy something else and like try to remake this in some sort of way. You know what I mean? Me going, I love anime so much. Here's what I think anime should look like is truly not like the move. Like the move is this is me. I'm inspired by this. Let me show you what I can do based on that. That is the move. And so
Mhm.
that's why I feel the show just kind of like locks in by like episode 2 and onward, definitely by episode 3. But like the first episode, I really want to remake that.
Mhm.
That's why I'm remaking it, and it's definitely, if anything, that's definitely coming out this fall.
Yeah. Nice. That's lovely to hear. Yeah. Are there places where people can support you both financially as well as just supporting you, like any Patreons, any merch, or anything like that?
Yeah, I do have a Patreon for IRC. Um, it is hard to make stuff for the Patreon because I'm always working on the show itself. So it's mostly just like you can support the show through this Patreon, which is just
Mhm.
IRC anime on Patreon. I'm pretty sure what it is, or Interstellar Ranger Commence. Um, but I do post like exclusive illustrations
Mhm.
and like I have posted like the season 2 trailer on there, like the animatic version.
Oh,
It's like
wow.
fully there. It's like not voiced by all the cast members yet, but that is like absolutely done. I think it's fantastic. I do think that when it's done, it hopefully, but like I'm pretty sure it'll blow people away. I think it is such a nicely done trailer. I'm really happy with it. Um, I also I do have a crowd made shop. So if
Mhm.
you look up like crowd made brown table, just a bunch of IRC merch on there as well. And I have some ideas that I want to post as well on there, so that'll be coming soon. But yeah, like there are ways to support me. If you want to support me on YouTube, that's totally doable. I do think of YouTube as more like this is to support literally anything that's not IRC. If you want to support IRC, you go to the Patreon.
Mhm.
But still, like if you want to support me, like as a creator, like hey man, I will not say no. So thank you. I
Right.
do appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, can we talk about like the future of Interstellar Ranger Commence? Because you've talked a bit about a Kickstarter potentially in the fall. Is there anything else? Like, would there ever potentially be a IRC movie or IRC game that you want to explore? Or just like more comics?
If anything, I can definitely do a comic. I know that in my head, I could definitely like make a movie, but that would be like the finale. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I have thought of like either it being a show and then you have like a movie that is just kind of like not like irrelevant, but it's like a movie that doesn't necessarily have to tie to like the show's story and it's like an offshoot. Kind of like
Kind of
how
like
like a
Cowboy
One
Bebop.
Piece movie or like a Naruto movie.
Right.
There's movies that like happen. They're technically canon, but like they don't really matter. But it would just be fun to do, and I'd
Mhm.
love to do that if I had $1 million, but I don't.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, I have thought of like game ideas before. Like it'd be cool to do like so you know how that Avatar game has like illustrated movements, like it's all like illustrated. So I
Mhm.
think it'd be cool to do like a game where like all the characters are like illustrated, but it's like a game. So you like move them and you're, like it's like a side scroller type deal. I think that'd be fun.
Right.
Um, I try to think low key. I try to think like very low budget, very easy to make
Mhm.
because if I start going and I want to make a game that is like Genshin Impact levels of huge. Like, there's no way that's ever
Yeah.
gonna happen. You know
So
what I mean?
much money.
Hey, it would be cool, but no, there's no way. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna delude myself. But
Mhm.
hey, man, I'll never. If something can happen, it'll happen. But
Right.
I definitely want to like kind of stick to what is feasible.
Mhm.
And so if I would ever make something, it would probably be like a fun side scroller type deal and like assortment of characters with different abilities. And if you want to like purchase like an alternate costume that's doable, that'd be fun. But yeah, that's like stuff that I've had in mind. But ultimately, like if anything, I would definitely like I could probably make like a comic or something.
Totally.
Um, takes so much less time. And I do think that at the end of the day, because you never know what could happen, because IRC is such a big story in my brain that I could easily like condense, but I feel like the impact wouldn't hit as hard. If for some reason I'm just like, guys, I'm tapped out, it's over, like I just can't keep making it, I would just continue it as a comic. Like I feel like I would have to continue the story because there's just no way I wouldn't like not. But I don't really see that happening anytime soon, and I know that the season 2 Kickstarter has a lot of potential, and I need to start, I don't know, communicating with people and like figuring it out a little better, because I have ideas of like what I want the tiers to be. I already know like how I'm gonna present it, but it's still tough. You never know what's gonna bang, what's not gonna bang. If I had, dude, if I knew of literally anybody that was like, hey man, can I pitch this to you? Can you just give me money to make this? And they're like, yeah, I would do it in like 2 seconds, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you know, we'll see what happens. But it's definitely kind of up in the air. But I have so many people supporting me that, you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm confident that what we are creating is very special. I think if anything, the second season's trailer is so dope. It will really help everybody see the scope of where the story is going to be going, and I really hope that will be like that final push for people to go, wow, so the first season was dope, this looks like it could go crazy, like I'm in, I'll chip in. And that's what I'm really banking on, because just the scope of the story explodes, and so I'm really excited to get to that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, it makes me excited for the future of this, as well as just your artistic career in general. And with our final question, I want to know, what do you want viewers to take away once they watch IRC? It could be whether just one episode or the whole series. Like, what's the main, like, either the theme or just like a message you want them to take away from it?
I think at the very end, even like I know how the story ends. Ultimately, the main through line throughout the entire show is ultimately like that, like humanity and compassion like triumphs over everything. Like I want you to like come out of the story understanding that Hope Griffin is a better person because she has been, you know, so kind and understanding, and because she has like a group of friends to help also uplift her, and she uplifts her friends in the same way. And because of their strength and unity and strength as like people together, they can kind of triumph over everything, even though despite how insanely difficult like odds are, you know, like how the odds are stacked against them, because of their courage and compassion and empathy, they will essentially like overtake everything. And like that's not like a spoiler, I guess, because in the end, good will triumph over evil. It's how the story is told. But I know that ultimately, like, the takeaway is just a message about empathy and understanding, and how even just being empathetic to someone who doesn't seem like they deserve it can like better that person, and stuff like that. And you see that in the first season, like Hope's empathy and understanding, despite Itsuki being such an asshole, does kind of help him understand that, like, damn, maybe I am kind of an asshole. And he does change throughout it. And this happens in like different ways with different characters, different scenarios as the show goes on. But yeah, ultimately that's kind of like the broad kind of stroke of the show.
That is absolutely lovely. And that message, I think, is very much needed right in this now with everything going on in the world and what such. But
That's so fair.
yeah, I am absolutely excited for the future of IRC. I am Greyworks. I am creator of Howling Hoods and other indie animation projects. Thank you so much, Mauricio, for joining me. You can find Mauricio on YouTube at his Brown Table, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Patreon, and all that good stuff. Please support IRC and all his other future endeavors. We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.